Let's have a conversation, or let's talk a little bit about food plots today. And in this video, I want to talk about the food plot that's called the kill plot or the hidey hole plot. Sometimes it's even called a poor man's plot. In the past, I've called them interior food plots, but the whole point of these type of food plots is they are plots that are inside the timber, inside cover. They're generally smaller, not necessarily, and the whole point is to attract deer to a certain area to kill them, to harvest your deer. That's why the kill plot. That's why they're called the kill plot. And I think for many hunters out there, in fact, I might even say most hunters out there, a kill plot or an interior plot is not a good idea. And I just kind of want to go through my experience with them today and why I no longer plant what I would call kill plots or interior plots. I think kill plots are actually a common mistake. The whole idea of finding an opening in the woods and planting a food plot for hunting purposes is a common mistake with hunters who don't have vast tracts of land. So 500-600 acres, 1,000 acres, 1,200 acres, or they don't have multiple farms. And when I mean multiple, I'm not talking two, I mean 6, 7, or even a dozen farms of 80 or 100 acres. And these huge tracts or large tracts and multiple farms are what you see common with the guys you're watching on TV or the YouTube stars. And so if you have these big tracts of lands or multiple parcels of hunting property, these kill plots or interior plots can actually be very successful, and they are very successful. But it is successful if you have these big tracts or multiple tracts, because you can put a tremendous amount of hunting pressure on the deer you're hunting over and over again. And if you have these large tracts or multiple tracts of land, you won't burn out your property, because you can simply jump from this kill plot to this kill plot to this kill plot, and you might never even get back to a certain kill plot or interior plot or hidey hole plot, maybe more than once or twice an entire hunting season. Compare that or contrast that to the small parcel deer hunter who has 30 acres or maybe 120 acres, but it's only one farm. Maybe if you're lucky, you have 2 farms. If you're planting these kill plots or these hidey hole plots and you're hunting them once or twice over here and maybe once or twice over here throughout the season on a small tract, you're going to burn your farm out very, very quickly. And the reason why is because, and I've seen this before, people will have a 30 or 40 acre parcel of cover, timber, and there will be a small opening somewhere toward the center of that piece of cover or timber. So the first thing they think of is, well, I've seen this on TV or I've seen this on YouTube. This would be a perfect spot for a food plot. It's already maybe a 1/4 acre in size. There aren't any trees, maybe a little bit of brush. So they come in and they clear that all out, and they have this beautiful little green hidey hole kill plot in the middle of their timber. The problem with that on a small parcel or a single parcel, in other words, you only have one place to hunt, is how do you possibly get in to the center of your timber, to the center of your security cover, without alerting deer at some point? What wind direction do you go into the center of your property with to hunt that food plot? What wind direction do you hunt that food plot with? No matter what you do, something is getting downwind of you. As you're walking in, you're probably bumping deer. They're probably seeing you or hearing you. So the access problem with hunting an interior plot or a hidey hole or a kill plot on the center of your property is terrible. And I have firsthand experience with this. We used to hunt a pretty decent sized farm. There was probably about 200 acres of cover or timber on this farm, and there was 5 of us that hunted it. And we did that. We created these, kill plots in the center of some of our cover. But 5 guys hunting that farm throughout the entire archery season, and then taking vacation throughout the archery season, and these stands would get hunted multiple times throughout the season. And you would just burn that area out. You would just burn it out because you're bumping deer on the way in, you're bumping deer on the way out. While you're on stand, deer are getting downwind of you and they're bumping you. And so that area around that kill plot is now burned out. Deer will just avoid it until after dark. And it's a common scenario that I see. Now, again, going back, contrast that with the guy that owns 1,000 acres or the guy that owns 2,000 acres spread out over 10 different farms. And I have to bring this up because that's a lot of what you're seeing on YouTube and on the Outdoor Channel. It works for those hunters because they can go in and they can hunt that spot one time, and even if the level of pressure is super intense, even if they bump some deer on the way in, even if some deer get downwind of them on that sit, it doesn't matter because they go to the next spot 2 or 3 days from now. They might not ever be back to that same kill plot. That's why it works on big tracks or multiple track hunters, and why it's very difficult to get a kill plot to work if you are a small landowner and you want to hunt a fair amount of time and you're putting these in the center of your property. They're just very difficult to hunt. A second reason why I see these kill plots backfire is because you put this food plot in the center of your timber or the center of your cover, and let's just say it's large enough. Let's just say it's a half an acre, because bigger is always better, right? You get some equipment in there, you get a dozer in there, whatever it is. Now you got this half acre or 3/4 or even an acre of a green food source in the middle of your cover. But you are still a small parcel hunter. You still only have 80 acres or 60 acres or 100 acres. Or maybe you put a couple of these kill plots in that are 1 acre in size. Does and fawns and doe and fawn family groups like to bed around food. So if you have good cover around these interior plots, good cover around these kill plots, you're going to attract and hold a bunch of doe family groups around these interior food plots. That's going to backfire on you when it comes to stacking bucks in there, because bucks, other than about 14 days a year, don't like and they don't want to tolerate these does and fawns and these fawns running around and playing and stuff. They don't want to deal with that. So they want to separate themselves from doe family groups by 1, 2, 3, 400 yards sometimes, depending on what part of the country you are in and depending on how much cover there is in your area. But the point is, if you're attracting all these doe family groups around these interior plots, you might very well be pushing away the bucks that you want to hunt, except for that 14-day window, primarily around the rut. So then a third problem arises. You put these 1 acre food plots in, you have so much time and money invested on these interior food plots, these kill plots, that you're never going to back away from them. So you decide, well, every time I go in, I'm bumping deer. Every time I'm on stand, they're getting downwind. So I'm just going to plant these food plots to create better habitat and attractiveness to my farm, and now you don't hunt them. Well, the problem with that is, now you've just created this attractive food source inside your cover where deer can go and feed, and they'll never leave. They'll never come out, maybe into your, and we're going to get at this in a later video, but they'll never get into your transition food plots, or they'll never make it out to your destination food plot, because you've basically attracted them and held them in their bedding area because they have everything they need right close to their bedding area. So you've just made it more difficult to hunt those deer if you decide you don't want to go in there and bump all those deer. I've actually seen on occasion, probably more times than not, the effort and time and money that goes into establishing a interior food plot or a kill plot or a hidey hole on a small parcel, or even a larger parcel with multiple hunters, 5 or 6 hunters, that it actually has a detriment. It actually makes your property worse because you're attracting all these deer to this location, but your access and the ability to hunt that stand without basically letting every deer in the forest know that you're there will burn out your farm. So I've actually seen that more times than not, creating one of these kill plots in the center of your property actually harms you long term. Having said all that, you would think that I am entirely against establishing any type of kill plot or interior or hidey hole plot, and that's actually not the case. You just have to be very careful on how you do it. The best way, or the most success that I've ever had with an interior plot, is when my access is perfect, both going in and coming out. And when I'm on stand on these interior plots, deer cannot get downwind of me, cannot get behind me and bump me. So there's limited times when this works. A couple examples would be, let's say your access is with a river or a stream or a creek or a lake, where you can canoe in or boat in and then get up in your tree stand and have that food plot right in front of you. Then deer can't get downwind of you because that's the water. And then when you access your stand and when you leave your stand in the evening, or even if it's after a morning hunt, you're accessing through that waterway. That's a good example of when an interior kill plot would work. Another example would be in very hilly country when you have a bench. A lot of times you'll have a steep hill coming down and then you'll have a bench on that hill. If you can get on that side of that bench where it breaks again, so your scent is blowing all off the side of that hill, I've seen those work pretty good. But again, there the key is, how do you get to that interior food plot or that kill plot, and how do you exit it without bumping deer? So you have to take that into account. So there's a couple examples when it works. All I can say is if you're making one of these kill plots or one of these hidey hole plots, and while you're walking in, you're bumping deer. You're hearing them snort, you're hearing them run off, or while you're on stand, they're seeing you, or they're bumping you, they're getting downwind of you, and they're scent bumping you, or you're scent bumping them, I should say. Your interior food plot is probably not going to pay off for you. My experience with kill plots, interior plots, hidey hole plots, whatever you want to call them, my experience with them is that I rarely will plant them or clear a spot out for them anymore, just because rarely is the access, and when you're on stand, is it good enough where I'm not bumping deer. But when you do, the first question is, what should you plant? It's always, what should I plant? Well, the first thing is it's got to be green if it's a small food plot on the inside of your timber. If you go with like soybeans or corn or some kind of grain, it's just going to get browsed off and it's not going to work for you. So it's going to have to be some kind of green food source. The next question is, well, which high dollar, high priced, high marketed food plot blend should it be? And if you go on social media or watch any of the videos or any of the YouTube videos, everybody's got their preference on what they want. And for me, it's just about keeping it simple. And the best food plot that I've ever used inside the timber is a combination of a cereal grain like winter wheat or winter rye, crimson clover, and then oats. Those three things, actually I showed four, but those three things are phenomenal at supplying a good, nutritious, attractive green food source. The oats and the winter rye and the crimson clover can take some pretty heavy browsing, and it's pretty cheap and pretty affordable, easy to establish. So that's my recommendation for anybody that wants to plant any kind of green food plot inside cover. So I got some notes here on my laptop of what I plant, and this is what I use. So this is per acre, 40 or 50 pounds of winter wheat or winter rye. If you want to use both, 25 of each is fine. For me, I use winter rye because that's what's readily available from me, direct from the farmer where I live. So it's about 40 to 50 pounds of winter rye per acre, 15 pounds of oats, and just the cheapest oats I can get right at the grain elevator or the co-op, and then 15 pounds of crimson clover. And crimson clover for me, I get that from a bulk seed dealer right here in Iowa, but there's bulk seed dealers all over the Midwest and even out east. In the past, I've added forage peas, and I've also added like brassicas. In my case, it's been apple turnips. And you can still do that if you want to add a forage pea or an apple turnip to this blend. That's fine. I don't do it anymore simply because I don't see the need to it. The winter rye and the winter wheat and the oats and the crimson clover are far enough of an attractant that I don't need to add the peas or the apple turnips. The one thing I'll say is don't get caught up on the blend. Don't get caught up on whether or not you're using winter wheat or winter rye, or if you got 60 pounds of rye and you can't find any oats, so you're going to put on all rye and crimson clover. Or one year you can't find the crimson clover, so you're going to put on all rye and just oats and no clover. Don't get caught up too much on the blend and what you plant. That is the least important part of this whole kill plot being successful. The most important part of an interior food plot being successful is your access getting to that stand, when you leave that stand, your exit strategy, and while you're on stand, not getting busted. That's way more important than stressing out and spending high dollar amounts for this marketed food plot seed blend made for these green food plots. I put some prices together. My blend cost me about $15 for the rye, $5 for the oats, and $30 for the crimson clover. So that's $50 an acre, and that's 80 pounds of seed. I've seen where this similar blend costs as much as $200 an acre because it'll cost $70 or $80 for a third acre, for a bag for a third acre. So you can spend $200 an acre for this, basically this food plot seed blend that I'm giving you. And what I just gave you is $50 an acre if you buy it from a non-marketed, hyped drama food plot seed. So you can spend as much as 2 to 3 times on marketed, hyped up food plot seed is what I just gave you if you buy bulk or from the local co-op. And by the way, if the local co-op has like a winter rye and oats and brassica blend that they sell, that's probably going to be just fine for what you need. This blend that I buy, I mix myself, and that's why I thought I'd give it to you. But if you're looking at food plot seed that's labeled, you know, big buck and premium food plot seed, and it's the threat booster, I don't know, all the trigger words they use to get you to think that that's something special, it's not. They're just buying their seed bulk, probably from the same people that I buy my seed from. They mix it up, put it in a fancy bag, and sell it to you as food plot seed. The last thing I'll touch on is for these kill plots, what size generally am I going to make them? Well, I'm going to make them small so I can shoot. So any deer entering that plot, I can probably kill. And if I want to direct the travel in front of me in this fashion, I'll make the food plot long and narrow in this fashion. If I want them to work by me in this direction, I'll make the food plot long and narrow in this direction. And that's not a foolproof method, but it helps. It helps to get the deer to go through that long and narrow strip. When I do plant these kill plots, they're very small, a quarter acre at most. Like I said, they're small. They're just to attract deer to a certain area to get a little bit of a bite to eat and then move on is the goal. And then I'll typically add a mock scrape in bow range of my stand in and around that food plot. And if there's other licking branches that are out of bow range in that area, I'll actually cut those licking branches off to remove that scrape so that there's only one scrape in bow range of my stand. And that's kind of a sweetener for a kill plot hunting spot. To kind of sum up what I'm trying to get at with these small food plots inside your cover or inside your timber, you can be very, very successful hunting these small kill plots if you have a lot of acreage or if you have a bunch of different farms where you can spread out your hunting pressure so you're not over hunting these kill plots, or if you're a hunter that only gets to hunt 3 or 4 or 5 days a year, so the amount of hunting pressure is very low, then these kill plots can work for you. If, on the other hand, you are a small parcel hunter and you want to hunt more than a few days a year, the amount of pressure that you're going to put on your property is really going to start to climb if you start hunting and putting in these kill plots in the center of your property.